Do you want to develop your social skills? All right. Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome back, Bulldogs. I'm John Sonmez from BulldogMindset.com. And if you want to develop social skills, stay tuned because that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I've got Manny from 2000 Books here, a good friend of mine, and both of us are going to be talking about the simple ways, surprisingly simple ways that you can develop your social skills. And at the end of the video, we're actually going to reveal the social skills that for each of us made us the most money. All right, guys. Before we get started here, also I want to let you know, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button, become a Bulldog, get the Bulldog Mindset, click that bell to get notifications when new videos come out. And welcome, Manny. Let's talk about
thanks
social
for
skills.
having me, man. Like, here's the thing: a lot of people, probably your audience knows me a little bit, but I just want to set the scene. I'm a nerd. I'm a physicist. I'm a computer engineer from my past life. But I've had to figure out how to develop social skills, how to deal with people, because that, like, what I found out over the years, ever since I graduated college, I spent over 10 years in the tech industry, and now I run 2000 Books, as you know, where I summarize the world's greatest business and personal development books. One of the things I learned again and again in life is that social skills are where the money is.
Exactly.
People are the biggest hack in life. And every time you can deal with people and you can influence them to your way of thinking, you can make friends, you can win them to your way of thinking, you can literally go from being almost on the verge of failure to great success, because you are able to get that one person to win over to your way of thinking, or that one person who gave you the promotion, or the one person who literally wrote you a check for $100,000. All of those things are possible if you just know the right things to do at the right time, the right social skills to do at the right time. It's been a study of a lifetime. I'm sure I'll do this for the rest of my life, but it's a never-ending study.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. I think I think a lot of people might be off-put a little bit by the idea, right, of developing social skills. They say, "Oh, it's a manipulation." It's when you use the word influence and things like that. But what I've learned, exactly what you've said here, is that it's sort of like a chef who makes great food, right? They cook very well, but having social skills is about taking that good food that you're creating and plating it, right? It's like, that's the whole difference, is like the presentation of that same message, the same idea. It's not that you're like coming up with ideas to manipulate people to your way. It's the same message. It's just that you know how to put it. You have tact, as they would say. You've got the ability to communicate more effectively, to empathize with people, to understand what is going to have an impact on them, even though you're giving them the same message. You're not giving them some bullshit. You're giving them the same message, but you're plating it in a way that is a much more palatable, right?
And not only that, like, here's the amazing thing about social skills, man. They're absolutely paradoxical. One of the most fundamental social skills, or one of the most fundamental things I learned about relationship, was from Seneca. I think he said something along the lines of, if you want to live for yourself, you must live for others. What he meant was that one of the most fundamental building blocks of life in general is to stop being selfish and to live for other people. And when you do that, things will come back to you in heaps and bounds. So if you're thinking all of these skills are just manipulative, they're absolutely not. They're actually essential to living a great life. If you want to be selfish, the best thing you can do is go help other people, go be of service to other people. So all of this thing about, hey, I think that's manipulative, I think that's conniving, it's actually the opposite. You cannot manipulate and connive people into doing the right things. You can never do that. That's almost like we're talking about stuff that's, if you're a thug or a thief, you try to steal from people. Ultimately, law will catch up with you. That's not the kind of shit we're talking about here. We're talking about real fundamentals of how you actually win with people, how you actually are able to make friends, how you're able to communicate with people in a way that they get your message, that they're able to understand your message. It's for the greater good. You are trying to help them. It's not you are trying to abuse the privilege of having them as a friend, because people will quickly sniff that out and get you out of their life. One of the most important things is to be authentic. To be authentic is a fundamental aspect of building relationships. So we're not at all preaching that you should be, sketchy and inauthentic and try to connive. None of that shit is going to work. I can tell you right now. But there are things that will work that work amazingly if you know exactly how to talk to people in a way that gets them feeling good about you and yourself. I mean, about you and the whole relationship, and that builds a friendship. So it's counterintuitive. The whole realm of social skills is very counterintuitive.
So let's talk about some. I agree with you 100%. What would you say? What's something that is one of the counterintuitive type of social skills that you've developed?
Right. So one of the things that I didn't understand early on in my career, and that actually got me laid off from my job first time around. So social skills, not understanding social skills can actually be very expensive.
Right.
It can
Yep.
get you laid off. Right. So one of the things I didn't understand in my job was I thought I had to impress people. We all have this notion that we're constantly trying to impress people. And this is something I actually learned from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book, one of the greatest books ever written on this topic, right?
Definitely.
It's when you are trying to impress people, what you need to do, what I was doing was showing off, trying to show off how amazing I am, talking about all the amazing things I was doing, talking about all the cool stuff I had going on in my life, and on I went, so full of myself, of how cool I am and all that crap, only to realize that people didn't really care so much about how cool I was. What I should have done all along, which I realized only after getting laid off. I thought I was so smart. I thought I was so good. Why would they lay me off? That is so stupid. But
Right.
in hindsight, I realized, man, they were right to lay me off because I was so full of myself that I couldn't understand the other person's perspective. I couldn't really feel what they were going through. I couldn't really appreciate them. Right? I never learned to appreciate people because I was the smart one. I
Yep.
was the nerd. I was the
Exactly.
physicist. I'm an engineer. So I think I'm the smart one in the room and everyone else is dumb. So I'm constantly trying to prove that. I'm constantly in battles. That's what was happening in my engineering world for a long time. Constantly trying to be better than other people. But when I read the book, I realized the biggest mistake I had made. That if you want to impress people, you have to be impressed by them. Again, very paradoxical, right?
Right.
All of social
Exactly.
skills are very paradoxical. If you want to impress, you have to become impressed by them. So instead of trying to open your mouth and just go on and on about all the shit you're doing, you need to stop, listen to them, let them be the hero, let them be the amazing person, and that will actually lead them to being impressed with you. So that was my first lesson, man. One of the most important lessons I learned in life. Stop trying to impress people. Stop trying to show how amazing you are. Of course, I fall into that stupid trap all the time, but more and more and more, I have toned that down so much. Now I really I'm very well aware that I should never do that stupidity. What do you think about that? Have you come across that in your life as well?
Oh yeah, I mean that was me for sure. And again, the same thing that really changed my mindset on this was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I remember the stories distinctly in that book where Dale Carnegie went to a dinner, like a dinner party, and he was speaking to, I think it was like a zoologist or something, and she had done some travels like to Africa and stuff, and he was asking her about it and just letting her share about how cool she was and how cool her trip was and all this stuff. And at the end, she tells the host that he was the most impressive in speaker or like a company
Conversationalist.
yeah, conversationalist, that's what it was, that she had ever met. And it was because of that. And definitely coming from an engineering, I think being in the software development field, there's a lot of sort of this arrogance that because you're trying to prove yourself, because it's a very competition. I think there's a lot of insecurity, right? And so you end up with a lot of guys, and this was me, as nerds, like trying to prove themselves, and they can do it with this intellectual wit. And the problem is that nobody wins and nobody benefits from that, and it just makes you look bad. And I didn't understand that for a long time. I would get into meetings and show how smart I was, arguing with people, instead of being later on learning that the person who, like you said, is authentic and can glue people together, that's the really valuable person on the team. And as someone who hires people now, I see that it's like, I don't want to hire the genius. I want to hire the person that can make everything work together, that can make other people work together. I think one of them too with that I discovered with that is, and when you think about it, like what comes to mind, and this is kind of my one of my counterintuitive ones to dovetail into this, is that if you imagine a person that is always trying to prove how good they are and that they're right, if you imagine getting into an argument with them, right? There's certain people in your life that you can imagine whenever you get into a discussion with them, there's no point, because no matter what you say, they're just going to say you're never going to change their mind at all, right? They're never going to move an inch from where they're at. And those are the most frustrating people, because you just know that like there's no getting anywhere with them, right? Now contrast it to someone who is level-headed and is empathetic and is not trying to prove themselves, right? Contrast that with like how refreshing it is to be in a conversation with someone who you could actually make a valid point, and they might actually say, you know what, actually, I think you're right? They might move from their position, right? And especially we see this today with social media and Facebook and all this stuff, like people that are very hard left and hard right in their positions. And it's like, it doesn't matter what anyone says. No, it's not changing it. But you've got those few people that are actually really open-minded and will actually move their position. And that's one of my big social hacks, is to be that person, right? So a little trick that I do a lot of times in building rapport with someone is, especially if it's a kind of combative relationship, is I will take little things and I will, okay, so we'll have maybe some kind of discussion, and I'm disagreeing with them, and they're wrong. It doesn't matter though. I'm not trying to assert that I'm right, but instead what I'll do is they'll say something and I'll look for a little hill where I can say, you know what? Actually, on that, I'm wrong. You're right. Actually, you convinced me, and it'll be honest. It'll be sincere, because there's always like it's very rare that you're talking to someone and 100% of what they say is wrong and 100% of what you say is right. If you can find some little thing that you can say, you know what, I was wrong about that, and you convinced me, and you're right. I agree with you on that. Oh man, now they've gone from believing you're that one kind of person that no matter what you say, that you're just gonna disagree and you're never gonna move, to someone they're like, wow, this is a genuine person. This is an open-minded person. They're and most people have never, like, when you do that in a conversation, you watch the other person's jaw will drop, because how often do you ever hear someone admit that they were wrong, or say that you convinced me, or change their position based on, right? We're so used to just making our arguments and no one listens. And so when you do that, you will build instant rapport with that person. They will respect you tremendously. And the other side of that is that they're much more likely to, now they're going to want to reciprocate. Now when you have your big hill, they're more likely to say, oh, okay, and move, because now they feel like they need to be magnanimous as well. And then that's, it's very counterintuitive to do that. But when you do that, you set yourself way apart from everyone else. So
this goes along the lines of the principle: in order to influence, you have to be influenced, right? In order to influence, you have to be influenced. And this is something I first came across this principle in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but then also in How to Influence and Influence People. And a lot of other great books have talked about the same idea. Even in the Like Switch, Jack Schaefer talks about the same idea, that if you want to influence, seek advice. So that's the principle there. Like, if you want to influence people, you have to first be influenced by them. It's such, again, I keep coming back to the same concept again and again, John, that all of social skills principles are actually counterintuitive. They're paradoxical to what we think is the right thing. Most of us, when we think of, okay, let me go and try to influence this person to my way of thinking, we're barraging them with like logic and reason and argument as to why our way is right and their way is wrong. But the counterintuitive strategy is to do what you want to be done to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If you want them to be influenced, you better get influenced.
Yeah.
If you want to feel important, make them feel important.
Yeah.
If you want to be interesting, become interested. Like, they're so freaking paradoxical, but each one of them is a golden nugget. Like, each one of them, we can unpack all of these and show why they are so powerful. Like the example of in order to, if you want to influence, you must seek advice. That happened to me, where I ended up, a friend of mine was approaching me for money for a business, right? And he approached me a couple of times. He was asking, like, he was making a really good case for why I should invest in his business. He showed me the numbers. He showed me, like, okay, we'll pay you 12% for the year and everything, blah, 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 all of those metrics and all those things. And I just wasn't impressed, right? Later on, he comes back to me a few days later, and now we're talking. He's asking me about my advice on electrical products, because I'm an engineer, right? Computer engineer. So, and I used to work at Qualcomm. So he was like, hey man, we're trying to build this speaker. What do you think about this? What do you think about this Bluetooth? How do we do this? What's wrong with this? Blah, blah, blah. And he's telling me in this process, he's telling me all the things that are going on in the business. Like, oh yeah, we have an order of like $500,000 with in China right now, that is blah, blah, blah. And he's telling me all the different pieces of the puzzle. And the more he's telling me, the more I'm getting interested in this. Right. And at the end of all of this, I ended up investing $100,000 with him.
Wow. Yeah.
Initially, I had said no. I said, no, I'm not going to invest. I don't.
To a lesser amount, right? To
a lesser amount. And then I ended up investing 100K. So this guy pulled the greatest social skill trick on me.
Right.
Which was, in order to influence, you have to be influenced, or in order to influence, you have to seek advice.
Right? And here's a beautiful thing about this as well, which is, I always found this fascinating, right? You can know all this stuff and you can read about this stuff, and someone can still use it on you and it still works.
It still works.
It's amazing, because I remember when I was first reading, some of the books on social skills, like How to Win Friends, Influence People, and, Never Split the Difference. That was really interesting. And I would tell people about it, and then I would use the exact technique on them, and they would still work. It's like another good one, very similar to what you said, is like praising someone, right? Mm-hmm. It's like someone sends you something nasty, right? Or and you want to argue with them, but instead, if you just start off your conversation or your email with some genuine, sincere praise. Now, it has to be sincere. There's always something to praise someone about sincerely. That's the thing too. It's like, if you want to come off as a scum bucket, like make up some shit or flatter someone. But if you
that's not going to work, by the way. That will never work, because people will pick up on that flattery. That's why, like, I just wanted to interject you, because people think that somehow you're trying to do flattery, or you're being deceiving or conniving. But the truth is, none of the deceiving or conniving thing works.
Right, exactly. No, you have to, and you don't have to resort to that, because you can always, right? Again, that was another great thing in Dale Carnegie's book. He said, I think he quoted Ralph Waldo Emerson, where he said that, in every man I find is superior to me in some way, right? Yeah. And you can find that, and you always find something to praise about a person, but as much as you might despise them, but if you find that thing, and then you start off the conversation or the email or whatever it is with that, they're like, no matter how much they hate your guts, like, if it's sincere praise, they're going to be receptive to it, and it changes the entire tone of it's so much, in our nature to respond back to an attack with an attack. But if you're able to actually find something to praise, it disarms them, and it works. And even when they read it and they're like, oh, this guy's obviously like doing this in order to in order to praise me, in order to make me feel good about him or something, and then but they're reading that, or they're saying that with a smile on their face, because you can't help it, because that's how we're wired. So it's kind of interesting that these techniques, and even negotiating techniques, same thing. Or I was just on who's really good at social skills as well, Dan Locke. I was in one of his training sessions, and they're doing sales role plays, right? And I'm like, oh, how's the sales role play going to work? Because you know what the other person's trying to do, but it still works. It still plays out if you do the right things, even when there's two people that are playing two roles, that know that this person's trying to sell them something and this person's trying to not buy that thing. The person who has good social skills, if they're a closer, if they're a seller, they still can role play successfully and get that person to move by using social skills, even when they know exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And the amazing thing, just like you said, like, some of these skills are not, even though they are skills that the other person might think that you are trying to quote unquote use, what you're doing is the right thing to do. That's the thing. You're doing the natural things. You're doing the right thing. For example, like in the book, How to Make Someone Fall in Love with You in 90 Minutes or Less, one of the key components of that book, he talks about this idea of like escalating the level of intimacy, which is through different levels of disclosures you have with that person. right? Now, it's very interesting that when you are in a romantic setting, when you are out dating someone or something, most people keep it very casual. They keep it at the surface level, and then they wonder why there's no level of intimacy or trust or emotional attachment with the other person. Or maybe if you're a guy, you go on these dates and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Well, one of the crucial concepts is you have to deepen the level of intimacy in those conversations. You start with very low risk disclosures, go to medium risk disclosures, and high risk disclosures. By disclosure, what I mean is you share something about yourself. You share about something about yourself initially that's not something that's very risky to share, but you keep going deeper, and at some point you share something that's very risky to share, as in your deepest feelings, your deepest fears, your deepest doubts, and worries, and all those things. And you keep going deeper on that, and the deeper you go, the more emotional intimacy you build with that other person. Now,
Exactly.
you might think that the girl who's sitting across from you will think, oh my God, he's trying to build emotional intimacy. Not at all. All she's thinking is, I actually like this person. I can trust this guy because he's being true, he's being honest, and I want to share my truth. I want to share my feelings with the guy because he's being so honest and vulnerable. So these social skills, as we call it, the big umbrella of social skills, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes of everyday interaction. Not only is it do they make you a lot of money or make you lose a lot of money? As in my case, I've lost jobs because of my social skills, but your romantic life, right? Your dating life, your interactions with your family, with your parents, with your partner, whatever it is, every little thing comes down to you being able to present your idea in a way that you can win people to your way of thinking, or you are subjecting yourself to a lot of frustration and stress and challenges because you are constantly trying to stand up against people and fight that thing, and not trying to what happens is when you take the default route, you're creating stress all around you
Yeah.
in these conversations. But when you're taking the more natural route, which only you get through studying the minds of these great people, right? That's why we recommend all these books, because all of these great books teach one concept, two key concepts, five key concepts about how you keep on building a better and better person yourself. Like, how do you become better and better every single day by studying these concepts?
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree 100%. And the relationship thing is kind of interesting as well, right? It's like, again, there's subtlety to all these things, right? It's like you've got those people that wear their heart on their sleeve, and they're saying, well, I'm disclosing, yeah, but it's not special, it's not
Mhm.
intimate because
Mhm.
it's to the world, right?
Mhm.
And it's not coming from a place of strength, right? Like
Yeah.
vulnerability can be strength instead of weakness when it's portrayed in such a way that you're unabashed about it, like it's a
Mhm.
secret, it's something that you don't disclose to everyone, but you're not ashamed of it. You're
Mhm.
not looking for that person to give you validation from that.
Mhm.
I think that's,
Mhm.
and these are the subtle type of things that make it, it's one thing for someone who's weak to talk about their problems and looking for validation and help.
Mhm.
It's another thing for someone who you see as really, really strong,
Mhm.
to reveal something that is a weakness to them. That's
Mhm.
something they're scared of.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In a way, showing some vulnerability, but you're viewing them as strong. Now that creates that connection. Whereas the other way, it kind of creates disgust, right? You've got those
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that you're like, oh, such a pathetic person, like, so
Yeah.
constantly looking for validation, and it's so subtle. But I think the other thing that you said that was really interesting with the relationships too is it's interesting, like creating that, creating that level of intimacy. Probably the best thing that you could do, is go and rob a bank with your your love prospect, right? Like get the
No,
adrenaline
don't say
pumping.
that.
Well,
Don't
okay,
say that.
maybe go to the amusement park and ride a roller coaster or something like
Right.
that. But that's going to create that, because it's again one of those social skills that you don't really necessarily think about, but the shared intense experiences, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing. Anything that you have that is a disclosure or something that is unique to you and this other person, that creates that level of bonding, and that's how you can very quickly, establish strong relationships with
Yeah.
people. I mean, you can,
So in
yeah,
the book, I mean, we both studied that book, Click by
click,
Ori
yeah,
Braffman, right? He
yeah,
talks about the study of war veterans,
yeah,
war veterans of three different kinds of war veterans. One who never saw any combat, two who saw some combat, and the third category who saw a lot of combat and even death. Like they were with their comrades, but they saw a lot. Like some of them with their comrades, they saw no warfare. Second, they saw some warfare, but some of them saw a lot of warfare and death. What happened, and they tracked these guys for over a period of 50 years, and what they found was very interesting. Like the ones who actually went through intense war experiences with their comrades and even saw death, they bonded much deeper to the point where they would go more often to the reunions. They would spend more time with each other. They would call those relationships till date as some of the most important ones compared to the ones who never saw any combat. So the intensity of the emotional experience that you go through will bond you. So if you want to deepen your relationships with someone, then go find those intense experiences that you can go on together, where you have to go and figure shit out, where you have to go and thrive, or you raise, amusement park is a small example of it, but you can take it to an extreme, or not to extreme, but you can actually take it pretty strongly. Like you can go on a trip together where you are forced to do things. Maybe you go on amazing. There are a lot of different ways in which you can create intense experiences which cause you to bond.
right,
Right.
exactly,
Right. Create experiences that cause you to build much deeper relationships when you go on a trip together and you're forced to maybe do a treasure hunt or something like that. Like really simple things like that can bond you tremendously, because there's the game aspect of it, the emotional aspect of the game, and the sport or anything like that. That's why teammates in sports, they tend to bond even outside. They're still friends because the emotional intensity of their experience while they're playing sports. Right.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And so and to your point of like the roller coasters and all those things, that is a great hack. That's an
Yeah.
amazing hack, right? So the simple logic behind that, and I think again in Click, Ori Braffman talks about it, and how to get people to like you. That another book that talks about this idea, where basically just because you are in the presence of someone who, like when you're in the presence of someone and you do some hardcore activities like going on a roller coaster ride or going rock climbing or even working out, you both have endorphin release. Now what happens is it's a case of missed attribution. That
Yeah,
person associates that endorphin release to you.
exactly,
So you took
exactly,
them
yeah,
rock climbing, they felt good about rock climbing, but they associate those good feelings with you.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So
That
now
and
there's a
yeah,
there's a hack. There's a hack into psychology in some ways.
and that's exactly why you don't want to be the bearer of bad news, right? The
Mm-hmm.
messenger gets shot. There's a reason why, and it's because of that. The association is with the person who brings it. That's what another why, an insight into people's psychology, why you get snapped at when people snap, right? When they're like, they snap off, they're in an irritable mood, is because you bring them negative information. They don't like it. They get mad at you, not it's displaced.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, understanding that I think is important.
Yeah, yeah. But especially for you guys, if you're in the dating world right now, it's really powerful to find. Don't go on the dinner and the movie dates. Find
Right.
something more exciting, more fun to do, and that will trigger those endorphin releases, and that will trigger that person to bond with you. Really simple ideas, guys. Really simple, but very powerful ideas, because you'll set yourself apart from the other guy.
Yeah.
And again, as I keep saying, like, each of these social skills is worth tremendous amount of money and also tremendous amount of success with you in your dating life.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about the ones that made us the most money. We can't forget at the end.
Right? We're going
But
to talk about.
but yeah, even with to go with what you said there with the whole dating, not just like going to an exciting location or activity or something, but also not playing it safe, right? I
Mhm.
think a lot of guys want to play it safe. They don't want to say anything that might upset, or like, what I mean, so they're just asking very germane, very boring questions, blah blah blah, small talk, how's the weather and shit. it's better to like rattle the cage a little. It would be better to spike the emotions a little bit by saying something a little provocative, or even something that might be a little combative. I mean, you can always disarm the situation, but then at least you have something going, right? Versus if you're just dull and boring and just trying to stay out of trouble, right? It's like, because love and hate are two sides of the same coin, right? I mean, everyone says this, but I don't think a lot of people realize how to apply it. And the same thing happens. Like, here's another good example of that love and hate thing, right? If you talk to athletes, right, and they have this kind of asshole football coach from high school or something like that, right? Or basketball coach, or even the guy, I forgot his name, he was famous for beating up all the basketball players or whatever, right? People love that person, that guy, right? Why? Because when someone is so hard on you and kind of mean to you, and then they give you approval, that approval has a huge amount of value. Now, again, this is one of those tactics that actually could be construed manipulative, but but the good side of it that I've learned is that I don't just give people instant approval. I don't just instantly, like, sometimes, especially when I'm dealing with people that I need in a subordinate position to me, like someone that is working for me or something like that, I don't just instantly praise them. I want them to, like, I want to have a level. I want to have a little bit of a sternness sometimes when dealing with people, where I'm not just gushing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is how it is. This is what I expect. But then when I actually give them sincere praise, now it has value, right? The person that just gives it away, no value, right? It's the same thing. Again, we could correlate it right back to the dating with guys that are like complimenting girls. Like you see it on Instagram all the time, right? Some hot girl posts some yoga posts, and all these guys are like, love, 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 tongue out. Oh, you look so beautiful, right? Oh my gosh. Do you think that's ever going to be like, you're just giving your validation, your praise out, just like it's candy. It has no value, right? But if you've got someone that, if you've had,
that's how I mean, what you're saying is the whole aspect of genuineness comes in, right?
Yeah.
When we are just handing out stuff like candy, like praise like candy, there's no genuineness behind it. You appreciate the girl for her looks. Yeah, maybe she'll like it for a few moments, but there is no true, like, she doesn't know why you like her beyond her looks. Well, then she's not going to be around for long. Right? Yeah. Because the looks, she also knows they're going to fade away. So if you cannot genuinely appreciate, whether it's a girl or whether it's a colleague or your subordinate or your boss, but if you're just sucking up to them, instead of genuinely appreciating them, and that's the key. I mean, I think in the Like Switch, Jack Schaefer, by the way, he's an ex-FBI agent who wrote this book on how to get people to like you. Amazing book, by the way. And he talks about, like, it has to be genuine. It has to be real. You can almost force people to win your approval. And he talks about the idea, the counterintuitive strategy, basically, which is to get people to compliment themselves.
Right.
You can literally get people to compliment themselves by talking about it in a fashion where they come to the conclusion that, yes, I'm pretty cool, and thanks for reminding me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And we want to be around people that make us feel good about ourselves.
Genuinely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We don't like suck-ups. Nobody likes suck-ups. No. Nobody likes inauthentic phonies. Even if you appreciate the fact that they're there, you don't really respect them. You don't care for them. Right? You would much rather respect a person who's being authentic with you, even if they're harsh, compared to a person who's being a phony and trying to suck up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? It reminds me of, like, there was actually someone had just posted a Jordan Peterson quote where he's basically like, a good man is not, I'll paraphrase it, but he said something along the lines of, a good man is not a docile or harmless man. A good man is a man with the capability of great violence, but the restraint not to use it. And it's like, it's the same thing. It's like when you're in, like, if you are the person who is actually evaluating the other person, who actually has standards, and you give praise, it's meaningful. But if you have no standards, if you're just then it's not meaningful. It doesn't have any meaning at all. Like, the person actually has to feel like they've earned something from you, right? That they've earned your approval, as opposed to you've just given your approval away automatically. And I think that's like a lot of people, again, it's counterintuitive, because we're like, oh, well, we should just be very, very complacent and nice to people and being nice is bad. It's not a good thing because it's saying that you're cheap. It's saying that your approval comes for free. That's what nice is. And so it's not being an asshole, but at the same time, it's saying, hey, look, you know what? I don't just approve of everyone. I don't just give my approval out, right? I'll be cordial with you, but you've got to I've actually, when I say something, when I give you a compliment, when I say something or praise you, it's because I really mean it, because for me to say that, I have to mean it. And there's people that I won't say it to. So I think that's,
I mean, what you're saying there, it's probably encapsulated in the book, The Art of People, where Dave Kirpin, he talks about, you don't have to necessarily just go out of your way to like people, but just go ahead and be curious about them.
Yeah.
Curiosity will lead you down the right path, right? Curiosity will allow you to learn about them. And when you are open to learning about them, when you're literally curious rather than try to impose your point of view or impose your way of thinking or just blindly trying to flatter them, when you're curious about them, that's when you get them to talk about themselves. And that's when you find opportunities to either compliment them for what is truly genuine about them, or let them compliment themselves.
Yeah.
So curiosity is like one of those hacks, if you want to call it, that will get you way farther with people than trying to like bludgeon or brute force into their life, or try to just do flattery, which will not work either. Flattery and sincere curiosity and sincerely liking someone are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Right? Sincere compliment is not flattery. A flattery is just straight up lying in some ways. If you are trying to, flatter just by making shit up, people will pick up on that, man. None of these skills will work if you're trying to be deceitful. I can tell you right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%. Here's one that came to mind that I think would probably be relevant to a lot of people watching, which is dealing with bullies. Right. So this is a big problem, especially if you guys saw that Gillette commercial and they highlighted toxic masculinity and bullying and stuff like that. But they didn't, part of the reason why I don't like this kind of stuff is they don't give you a solution. This is not, the solution is not for people never to bully, because that's ridiculous. The solution is not for someone to step in. Not going to be happening all the time. Solution is for you to figure out how to do that. So how do you deal with bullies, right? So one technique that I use, right? I mean, everyone gets bullied from time to time, but I think this is a good technique, which is to acknowledge. And basically, like, instead of like, what happens a lot of times is someone will try to bully you and you'll try to defend or you'll try to deflect. Right. But it's like a judo throw. You just go with it. Right. So, for example, someone says, oh, man, you are such a fucking nerd. And then you say, I am such a fucking nerd. Right. You're basically misinterpreting what they're saying as a positive thing. Right. This is just a good technique in general. But, someone says, oh, man, your shoes like do not like you look like you don't know how to match your clothes. And say, yeah, I don't know how to match my clothes. Right. It's like you just acknowledge what they've said. It's really hard for them to like fight and to bully you when you're acknowledging it and you're putting a positive spin on it. It's like then everything that they say, you're putting this positive spin on it. Like because you got to think about it. When someone's trying to bully you, they're trying to hurt you. They're trying to get you to fight. They're trying to hurt you. They're trying to, disparage you in some way. But if you take it as a compliment every time, like every time they're doing it, they're doing the opposite of what they're trying to do. So they're getting frustrated and pissed off, and they're going to stop because they're just pumping up your state instead of bringing it down is what they want to do. Now, again, it doesn't mean that it's always going to work, but it's a better way. And it's a great way to deal with insults when people throw off insults to you, is especially, when you're kind of in that situation where you're kind of, and I've been there plenty of times where you're kind of the dorky person or whatever. You're not the cool guy, right? And so the cool guy comes up, right, and says, oh, and makes some kind of snide comment to you. And, if you react by actually misinterpreting that as a compliment, then it's really like disarms the entire thing. And there's not much that the person can do in that case. It makes them look dumb.
Yeah. I think that's a really powerful strategy, like not having to fight, but instead allowing the force to go with you in some ways. Let's jump. I mean, I'm excited to talk about the strategy that made us the most money, because here's the thing. Social skills have made me tons of money. So for me to like find out the one that made me a lot of
Yeah.
money, it's been like a lot of thinking. But I know there's quite a few that made me a lot of money as well. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first, since I
All
was
right.
just.
So back when I was in my tech career, uh, I was working here in San Diego. I was doing geeky engineering stuff. And being the geeky engineer I was constantly, again, doing the same thing. Even after I got laid off, I was back to my same old behavior, which was trying to prove how awesome I was, trying to prove how smart I was. In the meetings, I'd be sitting in the meetings, I'd be telling my manager why he was wrong about this specific idea, or I would tell my VP that the way they are thinking about this is actually not going to work with the customer because of XYZ things. Or pick out all of their flaws in their logic and tell them why this is such a bad idea. And I was not getting promoted. Thought I was doing the right thing, man. I was working so hard. I was working 16-hour days. I was hustling all the time. I was doing all these presentations. I was going out, reaching out to different departments, trying to help and trying to do all of this crap. But I couldn't get my ass promoted. Like I tried all of the stuff and nothing
Yeah.
was working. I was working, like the less they promoted me, the harder I worked. But the harder I worked, the less my opportunities became for some reason. I was like, what the hell's going on? And until one day, when a friend of mine, one of my mentors in my life, he said, a completely unrelated topic. He's like, Manny, have you read that book, 48 Laws of Power? I think you'd like it. It's really good. And I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. So I read the first chapter of that book.
Yeah.
The
First
first chapter
chapter.
of that book
Yeah.
literally made me $30,000. $30,000 just from one chapter. Now, let me tell you what happened. The first chapter in the book, in 48 Laws of Power, first law of power is never outshine the master. This is the first law of power.
Right.
And me, having been an engineer, having been the smart dude, being a physicist and a computer engineer, trying all my smartness, trying to use all of my smartness to do what I want to do, I couldn't get anything to do, anything to move. Like I couldn't get promoted. But as soon as I started using this number one law of power,
Yeah.
within a matter of few months, I got promoted, and that was a $10,000 promotion. All I had to do was stop fighting, stop trying to prove that I was smarter than my manager, my VP, my all those people. And not only that, I actually started working less because I wasn't in this maniac obsession to try to prove how amazing I was. Now I was actually going with those people. I was like, oh, okay. And even if they were wrong, I would never publicly try to denounce it. I'd just go back to them later and say, hey, by the way, I was thinking about this. What do you think about this? What do you think of this as a possibility? And sometimes they'd be like, yeah, that's really good. And they would take it as their own thing and go with it, which is totally cool because now I became the influencer. I became their right-hand man. And that turnaround was huge. Literally, like that promotion netted me a bunch of money. But not only that, it reduced my work hours tremendously. It reduced my stress levels tremendously. So that's the amazing thing about these social skills, man. Like one skill can change your life. One skill can, I'm saying $10,000 multiplied by 3 for the 3 years of promotion, $30,000. But I think that skill has made me a whole lot more because over time I've used it again and again and again in my life. Now I'm much more aware of how I can use it every single time to move my relationships forward, to move my business forward. So it's probably more than 30K, but 30K for sure, just from one chapter.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. That is one that, in fact, in my book, in the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, I dedicated a whole chapter to dealing with your boss. And the number one thing I said is your job is to make your boss look good. It's not to write code. It's to make your boss look good, because that's the thing that your boss is being evaluated on and you're going to be evaluated on. That's the thing that's going to make the difference. And when you think of it that way and you start making your boss look good, and you start making your boss's job easier, then you're going to get, because then you're making it more likely that that person's going to get promoted, and that's going to pull you up. Who do you think they're going to pull up? And again, no boss in their right mind would ever want someone to be outshining them so that they get promoted above them.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense, right? It's like, where the hierarchy is. There's someone right above you. So the only spot that you can go is above them. They're not going to help you do that. They don't want to see you do that. That's, no one can handle that. So as much as you think you're doing good. Yeah.
So what's your strategy? What's the What's the skill that made you the most money?
Okay, so this one I've used many, many times. It is so I'll tell you a story. So the basically, well, we'll start with the story. So this is one example of it. So I hired this accountant a
Mm-hmm.
while back, and
Mm-hmm.
I he wasn't the best accountant, honestly. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but he made some mistakes, and he got in a situation where he messed up, and
Mm-hmm.
he basically ended up messing up my credit because I didn't pay this fee to the government that I was supposed to, because he late filed and he was supposed to make this thing in the way that he filed it. So anyway, he ended up costing me about $10,000 and then some credit damage. Okay, and so I talked to a mediator, right, to settle this. Okay, we just went into arbitration basically. All right, and when I went into arbitration, I had a judge that was the arbitrator, and then I had my legal counsel, okay, who who was representing me, okay, and what ended up happening was I wanted $10,000 because I just wanted my money back. That's it, right? I just wanted what it was costing me, and so I thought I was a pretty good negotiator, right? So I used the basic strategy. It's like, okay, well, if I want $10,000, I should ask for 15, and then I'll go to 12.5, and then I'll get to 10, right? This is how most people negotiate. So I learned something that day, and since then I've learned from another book I'll mention in a second here. But I learned something because when the lawyer said, okay, what should we start this at? I'm going to suggest that we ask for $50,000. I was like, what? Are you serious? And then what surprised me even more than that was the judge, who was the arbitrator, who was supposed to be neutral, but was kind of on my side because I think she had dealings with this guy in the past. But she was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And I'm like, what? I was like, I was thinking like 15 grand. Like, well, you're going to ask him for.
You were thinking 1.5 and they were saying 5.0.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, isn't he just going to be like, fuck you guys, right? That's what and so they're like, no, this is, and I was like, okay, fine, I trust you guys, like, yeah. And in fact, these are ladies, both of them. They're both of these ladies. So I said, I'll trust you, ladies, okay. And so they make the offer, and what do you think the guy responds back with? He says, I'm giving you nothing. He responds back with 0. Okay, so I'm like, oh, you guys fucked it up. You fucked it up, right? You pissed them off. It's not going to happen now. Like, we're going to be screwed here. We need to really like calm down here and get to like 20K or something like that. So they're like, no. This is what I would suggest.
48.
Yes.
Really?
48. You got it.
Wow.
Exactly. Right. I haven't told you the story before.
Yeah. No, you never told me the story, but in my mind, I'm like thinking how you would 48. Back off an offer like that.
So man, so I'm like, okay, all right. So we send the 48 offer. They come back quick, okay, and they come right up to like I think at that point they came straight up to 10,000, right? Because that was like, oh fuck, these guys are serious. Like that triggered their alarm bell. They're like, oh shit, like I don't want to pay $40,000, right? You know what I mean? They're like, these guys are fucking serious. They're not playing around. This is what they think they want. This is what, right? Because we didn't come down. We just barely came down at all, okay. And then, again, it went back and forth a few times, but they kept on like taking it down a little bit, right? And then finally, at the end, it came down to like somewhere around $20,000 was what the amount came down to. So instead of getting 10,000, I got $20,000.
Right.
And in fact, maybe I wouldn't have gotten 10 if I negotiated it without having those negotiating skills. I might have gotten 7 or 5 or nothing, right? So I learned valuable skill, which is to negotiate, right? This is an important social skill because you have to understand, there's a lot to this. In fact, what really enhanced the skill, I got interested in this, and I read the book Never Split the Difference, again, by an ex-FBI hostage negotiator. What's his name? Can't think of it now, but
Chris Voss.
Yes, Chris Voss. And that really, that book and those strategies changed my life because there's so much to it. One of them is the price anchoring. Using a price anchor. That's what that was using a price anchor and then keeping that, because by using that 50,000, that really high number, it sort of anchored everything up to that. So now when they when they gave 10,000, it didn't seem like much because it
Yeah.
was, or even 20, it didn't seem like much because that threat of 50 was out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other techniques, things within that have made me so much money. Just like even just like when you negotiate, one of the techniques from that book was this idea of you offer something that is like a radio or so. The example that like you offer something that is clearly shows that you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, even though you're not, right? Instead of offering a number, you're like, and I'll wash your car or something like that, right? It's like now they feel like you're that's it, that they can't budge you anymore because you're out of money. You're throwing other stuff out there, and that or even just the negotiation technique of understanding what does the other person really want, right? Most of the time when we're in negotiations, you think that they're just after money. It's not just about money. Some of it is pride. Some of it is the the soft.
We end up negotiating. We end up fighting over strategy rather than the bigger purpose. I mean, that's something I learned in the book, Crucial Conversations. Most of the challenges we have in our difficult conversations are because we're fighting for the strategy rather than the bigger purpose that we're both after in some ways, like understanding what the other person might want in a deeper sense rather than just what they're asking on a surface level. I'm sure in your real estate negotiations, you've come across quite a lot of that, like where you make an offer that actually meets their demands, their unmet demands, as much as it meets your particular demands, right?
Oh yeah,
there might be someone who wants to sell, but if you do seller financing and you get them the loan that they want or the money that they want on a monthly basis, they just want that income, and they were going to put that money in a freaking bank and get 3%, and you're saying no, let's do seller financing and I'll give you 7%, and now you're making a whole lot more money while you still are like nothing has changed on your end and we're all good. You still have the collateral, you still have the house, so all that has changed is ownership. So this is the amazing thing about this world.
I was going to say that's exactly the example that I was going to say, because I've done that before, where and a lot of people say, oh well, why would a seller carry the loan? And they're not going to carry the loan. Well, sometimes what they're after is a higher overall price, and so sometimes you can offer them more money. And if I care about cash flow, maybe I can get them to even come down on the interest rate. If let's say they're selling their house for $150,000, okay, and I want to get seller financing, maybe I offer them $180,000, $30,000 more. And you say, well, John, that's stupid. No, because maybe I could get them to give me like a 3% interest rate. Right? But they're getting the price that they want, right? It's like, what is the thing? And I'm getting what I want. I don't care if I pay $30,000 more if I've got a tenant renting it out and I'm getting cash flow. Doesn't matter, because it doesn't make any difference, right? What the numbers that matter for me is what is the rent versus the what is the ultimate cash flow. So again, this is a good example, but there's tons of these where we just think that we're negotiating on the same thing, but we're not. It's not the same objective.
And like in the meta framework of all of this, there's tons of examples that we will find in our lives where social skills are worth way more than just dollars, right? They're worth your relationships. They're worth, if you date the right person or the wrong person, if you end up marrying the right person or the wrong person, not only that, if you end up, making a whole lot more money, negotiating the wrong thing down. There's so much that goes on with relationships, making friends, making the right kinds of friends can catapult you to success. Making the wrong kinds of friends can take you to ultimate failure. Right. One of the most important lessons I learned from Tony Robbins when I went to Unleash the Power Within, he said, you can use all the strategies I've taught you in your life in order to accelerate success. But the ultimate success is in finding the people and working with them. Right. People are the greatest life hack. And that's why social skills are one of the most important skills you can develop in your life in order to take your life to the next level, to the stratosphere in some ways. And that's why, the social skills program that I've created.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So guys,
so what I've done in that program is I've taken 30 of the greatest books on people skills, social skills, on becoming more charismatic, becoming more likable, becoming how to make friends with people, how to influence people to your way of thinking, how to make how to make genuine connections, how to make deep connections with people. All of those things are in that program. I have summarized them, like there's probably 200 plus of the greatest ideas you can ever find. Now, the ideas you and I shared today were the ones that were applicable to our lives at that moment of time. But these ideas are timeless. Nothing changes. And what people, like when you are studying that program, what you'll find is that you might apply one idea today, you'll need another idea tomorrow when you get to another stage of life, and you'll need another idea tomorrow when you reach another stage of life. So these ideas, and they might be different from the ideas that have affected my life or John's life. There's tons of all these different social skills that are out there that we need to study, that we need to be aware of. And if you have the time, by all means, you should read all 30 of these books. These are some amazing books. From what I know, most people read maybe 4 or 5 books a year, so it'll take you 6 years to read that stuff. But what I have done is summarize all of those books into like 10 hours of video content, 30 books summarized, 200 greatest ideas on people skills, on social skills in that program right now.
Yeah. This, and it's super valuable. Like I said, I mean, I've read some of those books. I haven't read all of those books actually. In that, a lot of the book summaries that Manny has done, I've read most of the books in that. This is one of those ones that I haven't. But the ones that I have read, I mean, again, just what I've gotten from the few books that have been so critical have drastically changed my life. In fact, I lied actually. I just realized I lied. So that was not the social skill that got me the most amount of money. Right? Because I have another social skill that I can attribute directly to $3 million that it earned me. So, okay.
Are you going to send out an email?
I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to give it away. And what I'm going to do is this, because I want you guys to get the social skills, to get this information. So if you go and check out, if you buy Manny's
program,
the social skills program, okay, I'm gonna send you an extra video. I'm gonna give an extra video that gives that, right? That gives that out. And in fact, I'll even just say this. If you even just go click and go check out the sales page, just go check it out. In fact, I mean, you can buy it. There's a refund and everything if you didn't like it. Money back guarantee.
Yeah, I have a 180-day money back guarantee. And right now we get like 3% of people returning the damn thing. So people love this stuff.
Yeah. So just go check it out. If you go check it out, then I'll send it to you, because I don't want to be like, I'm not going to give you this thing. It's just that we're running out of time anyway, and I got to give you some incentive to actually go.
Maybe we can add that as a bonus in the course. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But right now we're running a pretty cool deal for all of you guys who are interested in the program, and I'll make sure to get that video from John into the bonus area for you guys who buy the course for sure. I don't know how other people will get it, but definitely you guys will get it. Again, I think it's a limited time promotion, and the course actually is not open all the time. So that's why it's in high demand when it is open. And I close it down at times because I know there are times when people want it, and I want that to be available to them. And right now it's Valentine's Day, so better make it, guys. Better get the girls.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, you guys, it is like learning these social skills will help you. This isn't just pick up and things like that. There's just value in that stuff, but if you have a basic understanding of human interaction, social skills, those things will apply to all of that stuff, because you'll see how to do it. Because I think a lot of people, again, just talk about the whole pickup thing. I'm not against it at all, but the thing is that a lot of guys, they think that they're just going to say some magic words or use some magic techniques, and that it's the subtlety. It's not just because when you understand the principles as to why that you should communicate with someone and why these social skills work, the counterintuitive principles. Remember, they're not intuitive. Then you understand how to correctly say and apply the things, and you've got that deeper, right? It's not just that you can operate the machinery, you understand how the machinery works, and so you can make modifications, you can do what needs to be done. And I think that's why this is so critical, right? Because social skills are going to help you in everything in your life, right? There's clearly in my life, before John developed social skills and afterwards, and ridiculous difference, right? Everything that I would attribute, all my success, I would attribute, whatever it is, not to brag, but obviously I've made millions of dollars, I've built businesses, and all this stuff. It all came from social skills. Like everything before that was just me, regular Joe. Maybe doing pretty good, highly technical, skilled at what I was doing, but really nothing I was excelling at. But once I developed social skills, bam, changed everything. So
yeah. So. I couldn't emphasize the importance of those anymore, but guys, check out the link. Should be in the description below. It should also be in the I button in the top right corner of the screen. There's tons of great books that are there summarized, tons of great ideas. And if you don't like this for any reason, just ask for your money back. I mean, I have 180 days, 6-month money back guarantee. So you guys never have to worry about buying any course from me, because it's always high quality and high customer service. So.
All right. Thanks a lot, Manny. I think this is going to be really valuable to everyone that made it this far. So
Awesome, guys. Looking forward to having you inside the program.
take care.
Bye-bye.